What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy Niner Sickness. I got my boy Shifty there, and this is the new 49ers weekly recap show. We're coming to you live, and we're gonna talk about the game they just played. We're gonna talk about things that have been happening since the game, and this is our first episode number 1. So if you're watching this, let us know in the comment what you think so far. With no further ado, let me bring in my co-host here. Shifty, how you doing, sir?
Oh, man, I am good. Great to be here. Stoked for this debut show of the 49ers weekly recap show. Really can't wait, to get into talking 49ers. Always love to do it. And yeah, it's going to be a good time. Definitely, as you said, leave the comments down below. Let us know what you think. And get ready for this every week.
Yeah, I'm excited, brother. I'm excited to talk 49er football with you and our viewers. And you could be seeing this on my channel on the Niner Sickness podcast, or you can be seeing this on Shifty 49ers Talk podcast. But make sure to leave the comment. Make sure to subscribe and hit that like button for us. We would appreciate that. So, Shifty, let me ask you. Let's just get over with the elephant in the room. Trey gets hurt week 2. This is a movie that we've seen before. Tell me about it. What's your feeling? What's your thought process on this whole thing, bro?
Man, it's such a bummer, because Trey, he's such a young guy, and I think he handled himself just so incredibly well through the entire offseason. There was so much drama around the team. Deebo Samuel, is he coming back? Jimmy Garoppolo, what's going to happen? And the whole way, he was a complete professional. He's 22 years old. He's a young kid, and he handled it brilliantly. Week 1 was a very tough game, tough situation. We all know that. And started out great week 2, and then we know what happened. And, regardless of like what people think about Jimmy or Kyle Shanahan right now, at the end of the day, you got to feel bad for a guy who put in so much work to be ready, and just for it so quickly for the season to be over. And, I know he's going to come back. He's a resilient kid. He works his tail off. So I think he's going to be back better than ever. And he is the future of the 49ers. So prayers out to Trey Lance and his recovery. And hopefully, we see him on the sidelines rooting the team on later in the year.
Yeah, I agree. It's tough, man. It's for all the 49er faithful out there. We all off season we were looking and anticipating for Trey Lance, our new toy, a new vehicle, and taking that out for a spin out of the garage. Finally, Kyle Shanahan named him the starter. So we looked forward on seeing Trey and see how he would develop through the season of 2022. And unfortunately, that came to a halt. It's losing a player, especially at the caliber of Trey Lance, is bad enough. Losing him to a team like Seattle, that hurts even a little bit more, in my opinion. But it is what it is. Football is a violent sport. Unfortunately, players do get hurt. If you saw that, like we talked earlier, the game with there was played yesterday. I forgot the team, but their D-back,
Bills and
the
Titans.
Bills, yeah. They we don't know what the situation with their player is. So it really, really sucks that we lost Trey. I was looking forward to Trey to develop. This was the year that I thought that he would develop, regardless of where we would have found ourselves at the end of the year, whether we made the playoffs or not. I think this would have been a year that Trey would have taken his lumps, learned how to make adjustments throughout the year, and hopefully by the end of the year, we had a better Trey than we had in the beginning. But unfortunately, there's a stop to that. Now we have to wait completely until 2023. And Jimmy was never traded. I don't know the football gods, what they were thinking and what they had in mind, but there were so many chances for the Niners to get rid of Jimmy. A lot of us, including myself, wanted to get rid of Jimmy. We're like, let's trade Jimmy. If Jimmy did not have that surgery, he would have been traded. Um, there was a possibility that after Jimmy started throwing the ball in July, August, that he might have been traded as well. And it worked out where he decided to stay. The Niners wanted him back. He restructured his contract to stay at 49ers. And everybody said, this is an insurance policy. It's not a knack on Trey. It's not that they don't believe in Trey. They just want an insurance policy because they know that with the ability of Trey running the ball, he may sustain an injury that why not fall back on a guy like Jimmy? Now, fast forward, here we are, September 20th, and we lost Trey for the rest of the season. Now, faithful, even if you don't like Jimmy, imagine this. Nate Sudfeld will be starting against the Broncos. And you might say, wait a minute, Nate's not even here. No, but if we would have traded Jimmy in the offseason, we would have never let Nate go. We would have kept him. So, yes, Nate would have started. If we lost Jimmy in late August, we guess who we would have been starting against the Broncos? Mr. Irrelevant. He would have definitely been relevant in this game. So let me ask you, Shifty, regardless of what you feel about Jimmy or what everybody feels about Jimmy, did this insurance policy pay off under the
I mean,
circumstances?
it's somehow it did. Yeah. If you asked me 3 months ago, I would have bet almost every single dollar that I have that Jimmy would not have been on the team. It's one of those things where throughout the entire offseason, we were speculating which team will he go to. A lot of teams were looking for quarterbacks, and it just didn't work out that way. Of course, him getting the surgery played a big role, but at this point, and when the decision was made to sign, kind of rework his deal, bring him back for 1 year, I mean, it was kind of mixed emotions because a part of me was like, well, man, I don't want Trey Lance to be looking behind his back, and I don't want there to be any division in the locker room. But the other part of me, which was kind of like, I guess, happy about that decision, was the fact that we knew Jimmy is a better quarterback than Nate Sudfeld, than Brock Purdy. So if anything did happen to Trey Lance, that we would have, the team would be better, just even on paper. The team is better with Garoppolo than with Sudfeld. So obviously, look, this happened a lot sooner than any of us would have expected. I don't think anyone expected Trey to get hurt this quickly. But we have to feel pretty lucky that Jimmy's still on the team. And you can clearly see that the team, rallied around Garoppolo in that game, towards the end when he ran in for the touchdown, and everyone's kind of like welcoming him with open arms and, really happy. But I think like the one thing that's really good to see is, like Jimmy's like the ultimate professional, like whatever you think of him as a player. And he definitely has his faults. We've seen many throws where we're like, what was that? But as a person and as like a professional football player, he's like, stand up guy, always been very professional, didn't really never badmouth anyone when he probably could have maybe, handled the whole off season with class. And, I think it's worked out for us. I mean, obviously, we think we all would have preferred to have seen Trey Lance get the full year under his belt and be a lot more success, learn and grow and develop into a great player. But we're in the situation we're in now, and we're better off with Jimmy than we would have been with Nate Sudfeld. So,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Listen, there's the fan base out there that just don't like Jimmy, and you're right. From a Phil standpoint, we know that we can hit the ceiling, and we had hit the ceiling with Jimmy. Jimmy can only take us so far. He is limited. According to Trey, his ability was higher than Jimmy. I understand that. We understand that. And I hope the faithful, and let us know in the comments if you agree or disagree with us. Let us know your thoughts, your thought process on Jimmy being that insurance policy quarterback. Do you like it? You don't like it? Let us know in the comments what your thoughts of Jimmy taking over. But the reality is, like you said, there's limitation with Jimmy. We know that Jimmy's can't uh, take us further than Trey would possibly could once. In other words, the ceiling is not that high for Jimmy, or we already hit the ceiling with Jimmy. But as a person, we can deny. I mean, you can if you want to, but the reality is he's a true professional. This whole reason why we were able to sign Jimmy again is because he got along with Trey. Him and Trey got along. They have a relationship. And none of this could have happened if Trey didn't want him here. Trey's like, I don't want him here. But so whether you hate Jimmy or not, you got to at least admit that he is a, like Shifty said, he is a professional. He could have been bickering and fighting and complaining and just making things worse. He did, and he kept his mouth shut. He actually, in my opinion, humbled himself to come back to the Niners. And people say, wow, nobody else wanted him. Well, that might be true. But we don't know that. Those are just speculations from us as the fan base. We don't know how many people talked to his agent. We don't know how many teams talked to him. We don't know. We assume that nobody wanted him because he stayed with us. But Jimmy has said it. I like the players. I like being here. I'm comfortable here. And he chose to stay here. Now he's starting for our 49ers. Now, would I rather have Trey the remainder of the year, haven't got better and developed? Of course. Me and Shifty, we both agree on that. A lot of you guys watching this right now can agree on that as well. But reality is reality. Unfortunately, we lost Trey for the year. Now we got to rally and support Jimmy. Now, I'm not saying to go buy his jersey, and you got to go and get a Jimmy tattoo. I'm not saying that. We're not saying that. But if you're a true 49er fan and you support the team, we got to believe, right, Shifty, that you want your team to win. And you use whatever means necessary. And if Jimmy gives us a better opportunity to win, why not rally behind Jimmy and support him and wish him well? And yes, in 2019, we went only so far with Jimmy, but that Super Bowl against the Chiefs, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Shifty. Yes, we lost that. Yes, that pass to help me out here, Shifty, the receiver,
Emmanuel Sanders.
Thank you. This is what happens when you're in your 50s, brother. Emmanuel Sanders. Yes, he overthrew him, but what people forget to realize is the defense allowed him to come back in the game. They remember that big old throw that wasn't him through to his receiver.
Mahomes to Tyreek Hill.
Yes, that wasn't on Jimmy. And so, did Jimmy make some bonehead plays? Yes, but Jimmy was winning. Jimmy and those bonehead plays, we were winning going into the fourth quarter, weren't we not? Into the 7-minute mark, we were still winning. So how is that completely on Jimmy? So my point with this, and I want to get your thoughts, Shifty, is maybe I think this defense is better than 2019. I want to get your thoughts. The running game, offensive line did not play as bad. We'll break down a little bit down later on the show, but I think that if this could be another 2019, if not better, and if we can win it with Jimmy, why not right that ship? I want to get your thoughts on that point of view, Shifty.
Overall, so here's my thought process: is that yes, I mean we have to be fortunate that Jimmy is here, and as you said, and I think we will say it all year long, is that yes, we wish Trey Lance was healthy, we wish he was developing and leading the team, but reality is that he is out for the year, and there's still a football season to be played. The world doesn't stop because Trey Lance got hurt. And I'm a huge Trey Lance fan, huge Trey Lance believer. With that being said, let's move on with like Jimmy Garoppolo. And yes, I think this team absolutely can win a Super Bowl with this team. I think this team overall is a better team than the 2019 team. I think the team that we see right now is also going to be kind of different to the team in like 2 or 3 months from now, because you'll have guys like in a few weeks, Jimmy Ward comes back. 2 months, we have Elijah Mitchell. But not only that, players are going to develop and get better. Spencer Burford, Aaron Banks, the offensive line, get that chemistry. But I think this defense, as you said, I think it's really close. But in the defense between this year's defense and 2019, I think we have to see some more games this year before we can like say it's better. Because that 2019 in the Super Bowl and then in the playoffs, because D Ford was actually playing. I like Buckner a lot, and Richard Sherman, he was pretty old, but he was still doing his thing. I think this defense this year can be better, just because I think Charvarius Ward is so good, and Hufanga has just been, you could argue, our best defensive player, him or Bosa. But I think that we're lucky in the fact that because we have Jimmy here, we've gone to and almost won a Super Bowl 7 minutes away, just like you said. NFC Championship game, one or two plays go a little bit differently, we win the NFC Championship, and maybe we win the Super Bowl just last year. So with Jimmy, it's proven that we can go really far. And I still think we're a Super Bowl contender with Garoppolo. If he wasn't here, we're not. Simple as that, we're not. I don't care how good the team is. At the end of the day, if your quarterback can't cut it, then you're not winning the Super Bowl. If it was Nate Sudfeld or Brock Purdy, or if we traded for some, free or some other team's backup quarterback, we're not winning. So as unlucky as we have to feel that Trey got hurt, we also have to at least, take solace in the fact that we have Jimmy Garoppolo, who can help lead the team and has shown that he can do that. So it's, I think, when I looked at week 1 against the Bears, because sometimes I just like to sum up the game with one word. The Bears, it was just frustrating. It was just frustration with all the penalties and everything. This week 2 game, bittersweet, because we lose Trey, of course, but let's talk some positive things here too. We destroyed the Seahawks. We slaughtered them. It wasn't close. And that felt damn good. So as bad as I felt for Trey and about the injury, it was a good feeling to just beat down on the Seahawks. That was awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And we got to look at that as well. That the Seahawks have been a team that has really pretty much had his way with the 49ers. And I understand Russell Wilson is no longer part of the Seattle Seahawks, but Pete Carroll's still there. Him and his 100 miles an hour chewing gum, Pete Carroll. It is such annoying to watch on the sidelines. And not only to beat them, but to dismantle them. Now, the only reason why they got 7 points is because we screwed up on special teams. Otherwise, it would have been 0. So the defense did shut that offense completely down. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't run and they couldn't pass. Now, yeah, Lockett had 100 yards receiving, but never made the end zone. You know what? Sometimes you can have all the yards you want, but as long as you don't score, I'm good. We can bend, but don't break type of defense. So from your thought process too, Sheffield, for your comment stating that our defense is not, it's hard for you to compare it to 2019 yet because we still got to see how Javon Kinlaw does. Does he stay healthy for the whole year? Charvarius Ward is definitely as good as Sherman was at the end of his career, if not a little bit better now than what Sherman was when he came to us. And we have the young rookie in the slot, Samuel Wilford, the third or the second that we drafted I believe in the 5th round, playing good ball for us. And then second year safety Talanoa Hufanga. If that doesn't excite you, I don't know if you are truly a Niner fan. Yes, I can understand the loss of Trey was a cloud that sucked. If you can just remove yourself a bit from that loss and see what Talanoa Hufanga, how he's doing. He started to really show strides last year towards the end of the year, and he has taken off against. He was a monster in the monsoon game against the Bears, and he was a monster this game against Seattle. He's only going to get better. Now I understand why there was no urgency in bringing in Tart and allowing Tart to walk, because we as the fan base, we only see preseason games. We're not around the coaches watching practices and really having a true understanding of how these players are developing in practice. They saw something in Tano Hufanga that which we are now seeing with our very own eyes on national TV of his production. And this kid, I'm not going to say he's there or anywhere near it, but he's starting to remind me of the safety that played in the Steelers. And if anybody has worked with him, has been him. Okay, so he's not him. We don't know if he's going to be anywhere as good as him, but his trajectory is pointing upward. And as 49er fans, you have to be excited that once Jimmy Ward comes back, that safety trio is going to be dangerous. Now, not to take away from the kid that we brought in, the safety, Gibson, he's been handling his business. That interception that it should have been intercepted. That was a referee back call, in my opinion, against Seattle. That was an interception that he should have been warned, and he didn't. That to me was a referee just making a dumb call. But when Jimmy Ward comes back, Shifty, and Talanoa Hufanga continues to get better each week, you got Womack in the middle, in the slot. You got Mooney, and then you got Emmanuel Mosley on the other side. And then you got Jason Verrett waiting in the wings, like the movie Top Gun. Okay? You got that jetliner just sitting there waiting for the call. Okay? This secondary can be a very good secondary, Shifty, this year. And what does that say for the front four or the front seven? The more you can cover, the more chances of Bosa, Eric Armstead, Javon Kinlaw, and a plethora of rotational defensive ends on the opposite side, starting with Sampson, Charlie Omenihu. You got Hyder. You got the rookie Drake Jackson. You got all these players. You got Teray just chewing at the bit to get to the quarterback. And if you can hold the receivers from getting open, that means quarterbacks have to hold the ball just a bit longer. And if that's the case, guess what? Bosa and the boys will eat. I want you to continue on that. What are your thoughts on that? How good can this secondary be, in your opinion, once everybody comes back and they're healthy?
Yeah, I mean, it can be, I don't know if I want to say the best in the NFL, and that might just me being a homer, but I think it could be top 3, top 5, especially when Jimmy Ward comes back. Now I'm going to knock on wood here because I want I want the guys to stay healthy. But if you think about it, if you have Jimmy Ward and Hufanga at safety, and you know what's interesting is, and a quick side note is I remember, I think at the start of training camp, there was a video where Hufanga and Jimmy Ward are talking, and they're like, "Oh, we'll be the best safety duo in the NFL." And I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, of course they're going to say that, they're teammates," but it might end up being true. You never know. But I think it could very well happen, especially as Hufanga plays more games and gets just even better. But then when you add in, all the cornerbacks, I mean, I just compare it to last year when this time last year we had Diamador Lenore, a rookie 5th or 6th round pick. We had Josh Norman, who we just signed off the street. There's just, it's night and day. Like, these guys are playing really well. And here's the thing, and we can compare to 2019, but I kind of want to compare to last year, is that I felt like last year we relied on the pass rush to help the secondary out. because we needed the guys to get after the quarterback, force him to throw it real quick, so the secondary doesn't have to cover very long. But now I think the secondary and the defensive line are just going to help each other out, because there's going to be plays where now the secondary, and I think it was maybe it was the first or second sack we had against Seattle where it was clearly a coverage sack. You know, we were, the quarterback, Geno Smith initially had a decent amount of time. He just had nowhere to go with it. And then we, bam, got the sack. So I think you're going to see plays a lot more often where it's the quarterback nowhere to throw to, sack. Other times we're going to see quarterback steps back immediately, sack, or else when we have the good secondary, we're going to start seeing all these interceptions. And that's what we're seeing so far this year. We already have 3 interceptions. I'm thinking back to last year, and I can't even remember. We had the interception week 1 against Detroit last year, that Dre Greenlaw, but I don't remember the next interception for like a month or two. We already have 3. And I think we're going to see a lot more. I think we're going to see a big time. The defense, the front 7 is, people were saying the front 7 was the best in the NFL. And now we could argue that once week 5 or 6 rolls around, you're getting Jimmy Ward and Jason Verrett. Those are 2 top quality players when they're on the field, adding to what we already have. And now we have depth. Gibson, he's been with the team for a couple of weeks. So, he's going to be around if we have to go to that depth again. And we're deep at cornerback. When Womack playing well, Mosley, Mooney Ward, Verrett, we saw Lenore and Ambry Thomas got playing time last year. So if they have to step up and play, I could trust them for a game or 2. But wow, the defense I think could absolutely carry this team. But let's not forget the offense is pretty damn good too. There's a star players all over the field. So yeah, this season is still so bright. Despite the loss, of Trey, I think this season is, it's why I'm not like freaking out. We kind of have to just go back to just being a little bit thankful that Jimmy's here, because I think we can all still be fairly positive about what the season can still bring us. I still think this team can win a Super Bowl. Firmly believe that. I think on our day, we can beat any team. There's not one game where I'm going to be like, we know we have tough games coming up. But I think every game, there's no game where I'm like, oh, we have no shot. No, I think we can beat any team, even the Bills, the Chiefs, whoever. I think we can beat them on our day.
Absolutely. I was just looking at the total solo tackles from Talo Funka. He has 14 in 2 games. Solo tackles. This kid is going to be great for us. And you're right. Geno Smith, there was a moment where he had plenty of time to throw the ball. And normally with a bad secondary, that ball would have left and maybe it would have been a completion. But because of the secondary tying up, and now we notice we've been playing more man than normally we play zone. Now we've been playing man because of Travarius Ward out there and be able to press the receiver. Geno Smith had to hold it a little bit longer, and that turned into sacks. And I like what you said earlier too, is that when you put pressure on a quarterback, and if he doesn't throw the ball right away because there's not a receiver, sometimes they can get a little restless and they can throw that INT. The Seahawks were, I believe, inside the red zone, if not close enough that they could have got in there and tried to score. And what happened? Because of our front 4, we put pressure. He made a mistake, and Travarius Ward had his first INT as a 49er in 2022, which we got the ball. We stopped the Seahawks potentially from scoring. We're going to see a lot of that, Shifty. We're going to see a lot of more. Emmanuel Mosley's INTs, they're coming. That boy has a thing for the ball as well. Shifty's going to get more. Bosa already has, 3 sacks or 2 sacks? He's in pace of having at least 20 this year. I mean, he had 15. And I want to talk a little bit about Bosa, and I want to get your thoughts. He had 15 sacks coming from a major knee injury. Now he's coming off a year where he's completely healthy, a full off season of workouts with his brother Joey. This guy is determined, and he's on a contract year because we did not. Some people may say the Niners kind of might have shot themselves in the foot by not extending him this year, because I guarantee you the money he's going to get next offseason is way more than he would have got off this offseason. Because if he does hit that 20 mark, or God forbid more, that price just shot up to the roof. And he's worth it. This guy is a special team player, and he's the front end. Now, it's still way early to say about Hufanga. I understand. But I got goosebumps, bro. Hufanga in next year might be in the conversation as, holy cow, we got our shutdown safety. If that's the case, bro, I know that's for future conversations. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I can do that. I get excited. I'm like a little kid in the candy store, man. But yes, it sucks that we lost Trey. Yes, we got to go with Jimmy. But there's so many upsides still for this team. Hufanga being one of them. Bosa doing his thing. Javon Kinlaw not looking bad at all. And he's a wreck to be with in the run game, demolishing players. And I want to ask you a little bit on Bosa, and then if you don't mind, we can shift over to the offensive side, because there's some
Sure, absolutely.
there's some
Yeah, with
awesome things.
Bosa,
Go
you
ahead.
know, yeah, I mean, you talked about last year, 15 sacks, and I mean, I'd be shocked if he. I think minimum this year he'll probably get maybe 17 or 18. I think he should hit 20, assuming he plays all the games. Is that, and again, we looked at last year. Our cornerbacks, especially early on, they couldn't cover worth a damn. So Bosa either had to get to the quarterback right away, or else the receiver was getting open, the ball's out of the quarterback's hands. But now we have that great secondary. So now the quarterbacks have to keep the ball in their hand a little bit longer. And that gives Bosa more time to get after the quarterback, too. I think what you're going to see as the year goes on as well, I think you're going to see the emergence. I think Ebukam should have a big year, Samson Ebukam, but I think you're also going to see the emergence of rookie Drake Jackson. So then, you see it like the first two games, right? You see, when it's Bosa, the tight end kind of hits Bosa, then the offensive tackle goes to block him. Soon, I mean, if Drake Jackson emerges and becomes a great player, then you have to maybe put the tight end over there too. You can't just focus on Bosa. So, um, but I think just the simple fact that, yeah, maybe the quarterback has to hold the ball for an extra second, and that second can make all the difference for a guy like Nick Bosa to put a
Yeah.
move on the offensive lineman, and then bam, he's in the backfield. So he should be in for a big, big year. But not only the secondary who covers, I mean, the linebackers too. I mean, I think
Yeah, not forget about the
they can
trio.
cover. Yeah, we all know about Fred Warner. We know about Dre Greenlaw, who got the 2-year extension, so he's got to
Yes,
be happy about
sir.
that. Which I'm happy with. I love the aggressiveness and the physicalness of Dre Greenlaw. Sometimes, yeah, it can hurt us. Like we saw that in Chicago, where maybe he was a little bit too physical, trying to make the tackle when the running back. But that's neither here nor there. I think he complements Warner really well. And then let's not forget a guy who was really good last year, Aziz Al-Shire. So these guys, they can all cover, they can tackle, they can do it all. So man, I think, yeah, this defense could absolutely be special. And, something too to compare again to last year is now we know D'Amico Ryans, he got to coach last year preseason, and then he got to coach 23 games when you include the preseason. This year he has all that experience. It's like a lot of this stuff that offenses will do throughout the game. He's like, oh, I've seen this before. I remember last year when this team made this adjustment, so this is how I adjust to that adjustment. So I think he'll be better. And I think D'Amico Ryans is a great coach. The only downside is I think he'll get a head coaching job this offseason. So but hey, if it means he does a great job for us this year, that could potentially lead to a Super Bowl. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I agree with the D'Amico Ryan's head coaching job next year. This guy, he's in his second year. He did great for us the first year. Now he's comfortable even more in this defense, and that's positive. And it's already shown in 2 games. Um, Now, one thing I like about this is the 49ers, I believe, lead the league in minority coaches getting hired. And when you have a minority coach getting hired, you get 2 third-round picks. Now we got that for Robert Sala. We got that for Daniel. I can't think of his last name.
Mike
John.
McDaniel.
Mike, thank you, Mag. I said his last name. Yeah, that's what threw me off. Yes, Mike. Thank you. See, I love this guy. I already love you. You're correcting me. That's how we are. We're a team together, brother. Appreciate it. But yeah, so we got third picks for him. I think one of the guys they hired. I think Detroit hired somebody as a GM. That was in our roster. I forgot his name. He was a minority. We got a pick for him. So if we lose D'Amico Ryans, we get 2/3 for him. Okay, and he deserves to be a head coach. Now, we do have Anthony Lynn as a running backs coach. He may not, maybe next year or the following year, become a head coach. That's another third round picks. You guys see where we're going with this? The Niners are smart. They are not only trying to win today, they are trying to set this organization for wins in the future. And this is where the difference is between us and the Rams. Yes, they got a trophy this year or last year to show for it, but it doesn't always transcend that way when you bring in players, high caliber positions where they have no depth. One of the things the Niners have is depth at every position. We just lost our starting quarterback. We have depth in Jimmy. Let's say if the Rams loses Matthew Stafford. Exactly. If Kyle Murray gets hurt and lost, there you go. Who's the other team? Seattle. Well, Seattle, they already lost.
They're already screwed.
Yeah, they're already screwed. So you see, guys, where we're going with this. So be excited, man. Be excited that we have depth. Be excited that this defense can be special under D'Amico Ryans. Signing Greenlaw to a 2-year extension is a smart move. Then now that Niners have the offseason to focus on Aziz. See, if they wouldn't have extended Greenlaw, now we would have been facing who do we sign in the offseason? Either Greenlaw or Aziz. Now that we have Greenlaw out of the way, now the Niners can focus primarily on Aziz. That to me is smart football. They extended our punter. Whether you agree, they extended him and Greenlaw within the same week. That's something the Niners don't do. So John Lynch is working it out there. Kyle Shanahan's coaching, and this team still has a chance of winning this division. I wasn't impressed seeing the Rams beat the Atlanta Falcons. Kyle Murray, they came back on the Raiders, which I thought it was fun to see them.
It was really fun, but I was not happy. I wish the Raiders won. And it kind of pains me to say that as a 49er fan, but wow, that was a great game.
Because we're looking at our own division. You're right. I don't see, and that's what I love about having a conversation with you, 50, is that I don't like the Raiders either. But I want to win the division, more importantly, about hating the Raiders. So if the Raiders win and now the Cardinals are 0-2, I'd rather have that than 1-1. So I am with you there. Even the Cowboys, which everybody that knows me knows I hate the Cowboys. I'm old school. I grew up in the area where it was nothing but the Niners and Cowboys in the 80s, so in the early 90s. But I'll still have the Cowboys beat a team if they beat the Rams or if they beat the Cardinals or if they beat the Seattle Seahawks, because these three teams are a threat within our division. Not the Cowboys and definitely not the Raiders. So, they're in the AFC. So, with that said, let's transcend over a little bit over to the offensive line. We got particularly 2 rookies, one second year, but still a rookie in Banks. And then at the opposite side of him, we have Spencer Beerford, that is a rookie. I want to get your thoughts before we start talking about our tackles, and we talk about our center. Just the two guards so far in two games. What is your thoughts, and what have you come up from those two players?
Yeah, I think especially against Seattle, I mean, the offensive line I thought played really well. We didn't have any sacks. I think we only had two pressures all game long. So they basically dominated the Seattle Seahawks defensive line. And I thought Banks played pretty darn well against the Seahawks, and so did Burford. Now, I think week one, Banks missed a couple of key blocks that really could have helped out. But yeah, these guys, it's like their first couple of games starting, so and every offensive line makes mistakes. I don't care if you look at whichever team I guess is considered to have the best offensive line now, but even they'll make mistakes. Now, there was one play that kind of stood out, which was maybe for not the best reason, where I think it was maybe a miscommunication between Brendel and Banks, perhaps, where like it seemed like Brendel thought, or maybe Brendel and Burford, but regardless, where Brendel thought the other guy was going to be there, the other guy thought he was going to be there. I think the play got blown up. It was a run play, maybe like I lost like a few yards, but at the end of the day, I think they played pretty damn well. Like, and I think these guys are going to get a lot better. And you think about, and a couple of things that you mentioned, which I think like stand out really well, is that we not only do we draft to, I mean, of course you draft to try and win now. You want to get a good player now, but also you think long term. So when we drafted Aaron Banks, a lot of people, and even kind of myself, I was like, why are we drafting Aaron Banks? But then they were thinking ahead. They're like, look, Laken Tomlinson is probably going to earn himself a big, big deal somewhere else. And now we have a guy who's on a cheaper rookie deal, and he just slides right in. Right now, I think Laken Tomlinson's probably better than Banks, but maybe in a month's time, maybe in 2 months' time, it's, hey, maybe Banks, becomes a better player, because Laken Tomlinson was good, but not great. He was good.
Yep.
Then you think about it too. When it comes to drafting for now, they found Spencer Burford in the fourth round, a rookie, and he's starting, and I think he's playing pretty darn well. Like, we have to be happy with how
Yeah.
he's playing. Um, so I think that, I mean, one of the things that I think the offensive line is going to get better and better and better, because it's so much about chemistry. Like, you want to, like, without even having to look, you want to know, oh, he's going to be there, he's going to be there. That blocking, the edge rusher is going to jump around on like a whatever. Oh, I know I need to move off him, and and I'm not like an expert or anything, but it's just common sense that when you have that chemistry, when you're around the guys, you become more familiar with how they like to play and how they block and all of that stuff. But I think that's something that really deserves a lot of credit here is the front office. John Lynch, Adam Peters, all these guys, they've done a great job of assembling this team. And something that, and I don't want to get too sidetracked here, but you think about it in recent years, Robbie Gould, unhappy. And then we talked it out. He signs a long-term deal with us. Raheem Mostert a couple years ago, unhappy, demanded a trade. We talked it out. He signed a long-term deal with us. Debo Samuel, unhappy, demands a trade. We talk it out, signs a long-term deal. We get on Talanoa Hufanga, a fourth or fifth round pick last year, could be a Pro Bowler in his second year. They just hit on all these picks. And then, as you said, they're really smart. And then, you know, I don't know if they really intended on doing this, but some of these coaches, yeah, that they, Robert Saleh, Mike McDaniel, probably this year, D'Amico Ryans, maybe Anthony Lynn in a year or two, all these third round picks that will accumulate, which really helps out too, because the Niners have been hitting on these middle round picks. So great job by them. And it's great to see. But to go back to the point with the offensive line, I think it's going to get a lot better. And we're going to have a couple of guys coming back healthy too. So Daniel Brunskill, not that Daniel Brunskill is going to start. I don't think that he should. I think we need to keep the offensive line as is. But knock on wood, it doesn't happen. But let's say if we do have an injury, Daniel
Yep.
Brunskill is a guy who can basically play any position on the offensive line.
Yep.
He's played a bunch of games with us, a bunch of big games with us. So if someone does get hurt, which again I don't hope doesn't happen, he can come in and just do a good job. He's not going to screw it up. So I think we have to feel pretty darn good about the offensive line, which 2 weeks ago we would have said that's our biggest concern. And now I think all of us are probably like, I mean, could it be better? Sure. But is it bad? Hell no.
Exactly. And they're only going to get better with reps. The more reps Spencer Buford gets, the more looks that he gets from top notch defenders, the better he'll get in his game. You made a point that I wanted to kind of talk about that it kind of hit me where you said Thomason is better than Banks right now, but the ceiling could be higher with Banks down the road. Um, and that's something the Niners are always targeting because they're when you have a top pay um, left tackle, which we'll talk in a minute, and Trent Williams, you can't pay not everybody can have a piece of the pie. You got to be able to spread the money to different key positions, and you got to always find a way. Good teams find a way of upgrading positions and not dropping too much behind. Now, would I rather keep Thompson? Yes, but not at what he got paid for. I wouldn't want to pay what the Jets gave him. Not that he doesn't earn it; he earned it, and good for him as a player. Go and get your money, but not here, because we were able to extend Greenlaw. We were able to extend our punter, and there's other things that we got to do. So we got to prioritize where our money's going, and you can't always put it in. I mean, it'd be nice to have the top of every position in the team, but it doesn't work that way. At least now with the salary cap. Back in the Joe Montana and Steve Young, where when you had two Hall of Fame quarterbacks sitting on the same roster, you will never see that again ever. Not with a salary cap. It's just I don't think that we'll ever see it again. To that point is Banks will get better. We got lucky, and kudos to our scouting team for really doing their job on Spencer, because I'm going to be honest, I've heard of Spencer, but did I watch any of his games in college? No. Did I start learning more about Spencer once we drafted him? Yes. Prior, no. So these scouts that earn their money, they're out there talking to people, they're out there watching games. Like you said earlier, Shifty, Niners have been drafting pretty good in the later rounds. That takes skill set. That takes discipline from our scouts, relaying the message, what they see, and the front office believing and trusting the scouts and what they see. I mean, the fifth round, it's like you want to trade the first round, trade it. You want to trade the second round, trade it. Do not trade a fifth round pick. Why? George Kittle, Greenlaw, Hufanga,
Womack looks good
now. Yeah. And then in the sixth round, we got Elijah Mitchell. He's been hurt, and that's something that, we got to talk about, if not tonight, in the future podcast. But my goodness, the Niners find gems in the later rounds, okay? And even in the late second round this year, and Drake Jackson, that might be a gem within the making as well. So I still want my first rounds, don't get me wrong. But my point being, kudos to the scouting team. Kudos to the front office in trusting John Lynch and trusting his scouting teams and what they see and what they report. And the Niners have been very effective. And this is how a good team maintains good or gets better with great draft picks. I've been a firm believer that you build your team in the draft and you supplement in free agency. Here, a spot there, like they did with Travarius Ward. But look, how many starters are we starting in this draft, bro? Help me out here. We got Spencer Beerford. We got Womack. Who else? I'm trying to think. We had Ty. He just got hurt, but he started. We have other. I mean, we have at least 3 or 4 players starting. So I'm excited to see what happens there. So now let me ask you, as we coming towards the end of our session for tonight, our first episode. By the way, please comment everything that we're talking about today, everything that we brought up, the offensive line, the individual players. we would like to hear from you within the comments so that we can read your comments and we can use that for the next show the following week. So we would love to have your input. So please comment real quick. What are your thought process on the center, and what have you seen so far from our tackles? Can't hear you. No, I lost you. Sorry, guys. Let me pause this real quick.
Cool. So, when it comes to the offensive tackles, I mean, Trent Williams is Trent Williams, the best in the business. I think it was the game against Seattle where there was some clip where he just destroyed one of their defenders. One of my favorite things to see is Trent Williams just bullying
Yes,
defenders.
sir.
McGlinchey, I think, had a bit of a rough week in week one. There was that video that did not look good when he
Yeah.
basically gave up the sack to Trey Lance and then just runs off the field. I was not a fan of that. But I think in week two overall, I think he bounced back, was definitely better. And then as for the center, Jake Brendel, he's a guy where he's been in the league for quite a long time, but hasn't played a lot of regular season games. So we have to give him time. He
Yes.
hasn't been perfect. I mean, I don't think he's as good as what Alex Mack was last year. But Jake Brendel, one thing that was really good about him is, clearly Shanahan thinks very highly of him, like just the mental aspect of the game. But he has the size and he's actually incredibly athletic. Some of his athletic scores when he was coming out of the draft were among the best that ever at the center position in the last, I think it was like 15, 20 years that they calculated. So maybe even longer. So he has the profile that we look for. And I think given time, he'll get even better. I think we all know that it was going to be a work in progress because in the middle, the interior of the line, guys haven't, I mean, how many starts did those three guys have combined entering the year? I think Brendel maybe started a couple of games. So I think overall they're playing well, but we know that they're going to get better. Like something to think about very quickly too is that so when we traded for Laken Tomlinson in Detroit was basically seen as a first round bust. At Detroit, we're like, okay, a fifth or sixth round pick, take him
Yep.
off our hands. And then we turned from our coaching, from our offensive scheme, we turned him into a guy who's making, and has earned it. As you said, he deserves it and he earned it. But a guy who's making what, 10, $15 million a year in New York Jets, a guy who people saw as a bust. So I think we have a good scheme, we have good coaching. And I think guys like Aaron Banks and Beerford are in great hands. And credit to the scouting department for finding these guys. And what I think is kind of good to see too is I see, and some of the draft picks haven't worked out. We all know that. No team
Yep.
is perfect.
Correct.
But something that I like to see is Shanahan, I think, is adjusting a little bit. Banks is a bigger guy. It was always before Shanahan, it was always smaller, athletic offensive linemen. But now, and here's the thing, what you notice too is back in the day, linebackers used to be like a middle linebacker used to be 250, 260 pounds. Like Patrick Willis, who, okay, he's a freak of nature. He's, I think one of the best to ever do it. And that maybe you call me biased, but he was one of the
No,
best I've ever
I'm
seen.
with you. I'm with
But
you.
I think Patrick Willis was about 250 pounds. All the linebackers these days, what, 220, 225. So sometimes when the league zigs, you got to zag.
Yep.
So if you have all these smaller linebackers, if you have a offensive linemen who are more athletic and they're big too, they're really big, you can just throw these linebackers to the side. Because some of these offensive linemen now, they have like 100 pounds on them, plus they're athletic. So I think that Shanahan's adjusting his mentality a little bit. He's still very stubborn. We know that. He's set in his ways to a certain
Oh
degree.
yeah.
But to see guys like Banks and Burford and big guys, very physical, they play aggressive, they love to play that bully ball. Yeah, I think the offensive line is going to be a lot better. Jake Brendel, he's going to get better. He hasn't started many games, so give him time. And I think we've gone up against some defenses. Yeah, maybe they're not the best defenses, but here's the thing we know about Seattle. Right now, they don't have a ton of talent, but they're well coached. That's one thing. I mean, as you said, I hate Pete Carroll. I hate seeing him on the sideline chewing that gum all game long. but let's give credit where credit's due. He's a
Yeah.
pretty damn good coach. He
Yeah,
kept
he
that
is.
team competitive for years. And then the Bears coach, he had a pretty darn good defense in Indianapolis. You know, they're still a work in progress in Chicago. Of course, the weather was terrible, but you know, these offensive linemen, they're seeing good, well coached teams. So I think that's good for them and good for their development.
I dare you to say anything good about the Broncos head coach. That guy
um,
is messing up. Talk about the job being too big for you. I mean, the judgment calls, the clock management, everything. I mean, going for
he
a
looks
60,
overwhelmed out there.
that
He does not look comfortable out there.
no, going for a 63 or whatever field goal instead of trusting your veteran quarterback to get 5 yards in a house that he built in Seattle, uh, shows that you don't trust him.
Courageous.
You know what I mean? So, but this, and I bring this up because we're gonna end the show, but I want to get a prediction from the Niners and Broncos game. I just hope this is not the game that they decided to get it all together. Keep screwing up, coach. Uh, uh, Russell Wilson, continue not to run anymore because he's not a runner as much as he used to be when he was younger. He's getting more weight. He's not as limber. He's not a Kyle Murray for by any means any longer in the red zone. So I'll take my chances in Denver. Now we are going to see two familiar faces in Denver. We're going to see DJ Jones and K'Wan Williams. Both played for the San Francisco 49ers last year, both playing, uh, and I believe starting for the Denver Broncos this year. So, and I wish them the best all year long, just not this Sunday. So I'm going to give my prediction after you. I want to get your prediction, and then we'll go ahead and end the show, my friend.
I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be it should be a darn good game. Um, Prediction. I'm going to go 49ers. Let's say 49ers 27, Broncos 24.
27-24 by 3 points. You are keeping it close.
Oh,
I think
yes.
if the Niners defense continues to play the way they've been playing, if we can establish the run, I understand that we lost TDP for a few weeks, which is that's and we'll talk that on the next show podcast. That is a concern of we drop running backs like flies, but this is the opportunity for Jordan Mason to step up, and then the kid that we picked up in the practice squad, I forgot his name, Mac.
Marlon Mack, yeah.
He was promoted to the 53-man roster. So we'll see. So now we have two vets in himself and Jeff Wilson Jr. And then we'll have the undrafted rookie to see what he can do. This is his time to shine. Is he going to be our 2022 Elijah Mitchell? Hopefully. We'll find out.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, I think this defense will rattle Russell. Now, I understand Russell has had us in the past, but it was a lot of Pete Carroll knowing the Niners. It was Russell Wilson executing in Seattle, but it was Pete Carroll game planning for the Niners. This coach in the Broncos does not know the Niners that well. Okay, he has a lot of crap already going on his plate. Because of that, I think the Niners win by 2 scores easily. And now it's not going to be a blowout. We are playing in Denver. And I would have been more comfortable if we were playing at Levi. But because we're playing Denver, and I can't forget, they do have 2 great pass rushers in Chubbs and I believe they have Khalil
Randy
Mack.
Gregory.
Khalil Mack. Yeah, and Khalil Mack. No. Gregory. Khalil Mack is not with Khalil Mack is Chargers. Yeah, sorry about that. They have DJ Jones as there as well. So my score for this game is going to be 31-20. in favor of the
Ooh, I mean, I do
49ers.
love I love the confidence.
Yeah, and we'll come on our episode 2 on our 49ers weekly recap show, and we'll be talking about the Broncos game. And let's see who got closer, me or your boy Shifty, in this prediction. And leave in the comments your predictions. Um,
Definitely.
Put in the comments, let us know what you think who's going to win and by what the score is, and then we'll see what you guys say. We would love for you guys to continue to get involved in the comments. So please leave those in the comments. If you have anything you want us to add to the show, please feel free to leave us that in the comments so that me and Shifty can sit there and talk together and make this show even better for you guys. We will be coming on once a week. So far, we're thinking about recording on Tuesday and probably uploaded it probably for Wednesday, hopefully before the Thursday game. At least on my side, I can't speak for Shifty on his channel, but uploading it so for your viewing. So we would like to get you guys involved. Thank you for being part of our very first episode, where the Niner Sickness podcast and the Shifty 49ers Talk get together, and we bring you the 49ers Weekly Recap Show, Episode 1, Episode 2, and going forward. Shifty, is there anything you want to say before we close this out, my friend?
Man, all I can say is that it's great doing this with you, man. Obviously, a big fan of your work, and I love like the back and forth and everything. And we agree on stuff. There's some stuff that we're going to disagree on, I'm sure. But it's just a lot of fun to kind of talk to someone who's seen the game and been around the game for like the longest time. And just at the end of the day, we're all Niner fans here. We want the team to do best. And, whether you're people watching, whether you're fans of the 49ers or not, I just hope you like, the discussion that we have, as Niner Sickness said, drop those, your thoughts in the comments, predictions, any potential suggestions. And then of course, hit that, smash the like button and subscribe and stay tuned for, because it's going to be, all year long. Be talking up, going through all the games and making our predictions. So it's going to be a really good time.
It sure is, brother. So we're gonna recap the game before. We're gonna talk the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then we'll give our predictions for the game going forward. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting our channels. Continue to do so. Continue to follow us as we will be bringing you episode every week. Go Niners! Have a blessed remaining week, and let's kick those Broncos back to their whatever they're. How do they say it? Let's ride. Let them ride with that owl. We'll see you guys later. Good night, and God bless everybody. Peace.